Hi guys, if you are watching this video, I hope that you have watched the last two videos. You now know what we mean when we talk about variable initialization and variable declaration. And you know that we have two different data types in JavaScript, the primitive data types and the non-primitive data types. In this part of the video, I will be talking about non-primitive data types. I know that in the first video, I mentioned that we have two types of data in JavaScript, primitive data types and object data types. And very soon you will see why I just mentioned object data types. Now, I have here that non-primitive data types, also known as reference types or object data types, help us store collections of values or more complex data. In JavaScript and Python, non-primitive data types are just objects, and that's why I have just listed here that object data types. So JavaScript technically has one core non-primitive data type, the object. So it is this object now that encompasses the three specialized types, which are the objects, arrays, and functions. So let's take these three one after the other, talk about them and how we can work with them. So the first one is objects. What are objects? Objects help us store data in key value pairs, where each key is a unique identifier and the value can be of any data type, both primitive and non-primitive. Very soon you will see how we take our knowledge of primitive data type and how we can bring it into these non-primitive data types examples that we have. So I have one example here. If we are storing the name of students in a class, details of a particular student will be stored like this. So we have the const student name, that's the variable declaration, and then we are assigning this object as a value to that variable. So we have name, age, enrolled, and gender as keys for this student. And then we have John, 21, true and male as values under this object. Let's go to VS Studio Code. So this is the example we had before. Let me just clear this off. Okay. So let's say we have a school, or we have a school, and then we want to store the details of each student in the class. So we have something like this const student detail, and we have, of course, every student in the class will have a name. This is the key. And before I go too far, this bracket here is how we are telling JavaScript that we are working with an object. So anytime we write code like this and we put this one here, sorry, let me just clear this off. And we have this here, JavaScript knows that this is an object. So when we talk about key value pairs, what we basically mean is key. This is the key. And then we have again, age, another key, and another value. Now, because we are working with a number, we don't have to add the quote. We can just say the age is 60, gender, the key, and we have gender male. Now, because it is a string, we have to add the quote. We have male, and what else? What else do we say? Complexion of the student's key, and now that we are storing the value again, string. So we have to add the quotes. Complex is that in completion. So in the last video, I think the first video or so, I mentioned that two of the most common primitive data types that we use are the strings and numbers, and you can see how we have basically just used strings and numbers here. Let me see how I can bring in Boolean. What can I save? What can I save? What other detail of students can I save? How come nothing is coming to my head? Okay, let me leave this for now. And the reason we are adding this comma here is to just make it clear, it's just to differentiate between the different key and key value pairs that we are storing. So to get this data now, to get the effect in this object, in this student detail object, all we'll do is console.log student detail dot the key. So I can call key.name. So if I do node index here with index.js, I can see Ife, which is the value that I have tied to key of name. If I want to get age, all I will need to do is, let me just copy and paste dot age by node index, see Ife and 60. So all we are saying is this student detail now has now become the object, and we have created 4 different keys in this student detail object, and we have assigned the primitive data types that we learned in the first and second video. We have assigned them to the keys inside this object. So this is basically what objects are. Another type is arrays. Arrays are ordered collection of elements. Elements of different data types can be stored in an array, and the first element has an index of 0. Let me run this example in VS Studio Code. We have, let's say, const fruits, collection of elements. So now our fruit, we have different types of fruits. We have pineapple, orange. Let me store them. Orange, pineapple. Now, this square bracket here, by putting this square bracket here, we are telling JavaScript that we are working with arrays. That's just what it is. We are working with arrays. When we add this one here, it means we are working with objects. When we add the square bracket, it means we are working with arrays. Curly braces for objects, square brackets for arrays. So if I have pineapple, which other one? Lemon, apple. So collection of items. We have added 4 primitive data types under this fruit array. So if I come here now and do console.log fruits, I do node index, I see Ife 60 and fruits. All of these arrays that we have added. So all we are basically doing by doing console.log fruits is it returns the array to us. Now, if you have 50 people on a queue, that means the length of those 50 people, the length, if anybody asks you how many people on the queue, you just say 50. And if you are giving them number, the first person on the queue will always have index of 1. But that's not the way it is in arrays. The first one on this queue, or the first one, the first element in our array will have index of 0. So the first element in this fruit array is orange. If we do, if you check the index of orange now, it will always return 0. So to now get them one by one, when we're working with objects, to get the value in the object, all we have to do is call the key. But because we are not using any key here, we have to call them by their index. So to call them again, we have to bring in the square brackets again this time. But what we are adding inside the square brackets is not just the name of the element we are trying to call, it is the index of that particular element. And in this case, I mentioned that the first element has an index of 0. So if I do console.log square brackets 0, save and run this, you can see it returns orange. If I change 0 to 1, it goes to the next one, which is pineapple. So I can keep going and going and going. If I have 50 elements in this array, I'll just keep going and going and going. So that means if I have 50 elements, the index of the last one will be 49. Now that I have 4 elements, the index of the last one, which is apple, is 3. So if I do console.log fruit square brackets 3, I get apple. Now if I just want to get the length of this array, I can clear this. Okay, let me write this on that. The console.log fruits.length. Let me clear this again. Clear node index fruits.length will return 4. So it tells me that I have 4 elements in my array, but to access each one of them, I have to start the index at 0. That's just how arrays work. Now let's go to functions. A function is a block of reusable code that performs a specific task. When we start working with Node.js, we are going to be writing functions a whole lot. There are 3 primary ways to declare a function in JavaScript. Sorry. 3 primary ways. This is function declaration. This is the traditional way to declare functions. We declare function with the use of the function keyword, and this type of function can be accessed before they are declared. So if I come here now and do, let me clear this off. If I come here and do function, say I want to call my name. That's the example I had there. So I have function say my name. This is how you declare function this way, and I can now do console.log my name is Ife. So now that I've declared this function, I have to call it for it to work. So I'll come here to say my name and just put this bracket like this. The moment I add this parenthesis in front of a function that I have created, that means I am trying to call that function. So if I come here and do node index You can see my name is Ife, which is the code block that we added inside the function, say my name. If I create another one here using the function keyword, say my age. Again, can do this console.log. Okay, this another thing you should note with functions is that you can add arguments inside function. So I don't want to add code this now. I just want to say my age. Now let me add age. So I can come here and say age. Just print out my age. So if I come here and do say my age, I have to pass that argument inside the function. So let me say my age is 80. If I do console node index, I can see 80, just prints out 80 for me, which is the argument I have added inside that function. So a lot of time, this is why we work with functions, so we don't have to add code data. So that's the first example, function declaration. The second one is function expression. This is done by assigning a function to a variable. This type of function can only be called after it has been declared. This first one, note this example. This first one can be accessed before their declaration. So if I come to my code here and do say my name, put it on top of say my name, and I run this code, what do I get? I can still see 80. Even though I am calling the function before I actually declare it, I still get the value. This is what we mean when we talk about hosting. But using this other way that we have outlined here, this function expression, you cannot access this function before the declaration. So if I come here and do let me use the same example. Let's say const say my second age. I use this. Say my second age. I have function. Then this. I can say, okay, let me add this here. Age. I have console.log age. To call the function, all I need to do is say my second age. Say my second age and add 70. So if I have node index, I have 70. But if I try to call this function before declaring it, let me clear this so you can see. It returns an error. It says cannot access say my second age before initialization. So these are two different ways of declaring the function. It's just one allows us to do one thing while the second one does not allow us to do it. So the next one is arrow function. Arrow function was introduced in ES6 and it gives us a concise way to write functions. So we have this one here, it's multiplied two numbers. Arrow functions basically help us take away this function keyword completely. Let me just reduce the length of this. Okay. So let's say I have another function that says say my third age. And I want to use arrow function. But that means now I don't need to specify that function keyword. JavaScript still understands that I am writing a function. This is method of using arrow function to declare a function. So I can now come here and say console.log age. Clear, and I can do node index. Oh, sorry, this say my second age is here. Let me take it, let me put it after the function. Clear, node index. Simple. Oh, okay, I am not calling this. So I have say my third age. Let me add my third age as 45. So if I do node index, I have 45. And I can just so I don't have to add this parameter, I can just add hello there. I am the third method. Sorry. I am the third method. Since here, node index, I have hello there and the third method. So these are three different ways to declare functions in JavaScript. In subsequent videos, we'll be talking more on the differences between these three and how there's this keyword functions comes into play when we talk about these three different functions. But before I go, I want to briefly talk about how we can use more primitive and non-primitive data types inside our objects and inside our arrays. In this object, we have student detail. If I want to add array, I can say what can I add? Hobbies. Yes. So let me say I have hobbies and I have an array. I can say I love playing football. I love playing football. Love watching Arsenal. Even though I don't love it a lot. Love watching Arsenal. And what next? I love eating. Love eating. So if I come here, let me clear this. Let me just comment this out. Okay, and again, I don't think I've mentioned this. To do comments in JavaScript, all you need to do is come to the beginning and just tap on two forward slashes. So you are not technically deleting that line of code, but you are commenting it out. That means JavaScript does not execute it. You have to remove this fruits.length now because again, JavaScript does not know where it is coming from. Let me say my name, and I can now do console.log student detail. I say dot hobbies. I clear my terminal with index. You can see playing football, love watching Arsenal, and love eating. So that means we have added this non-primitive data type array as a value inside the student detail object. So I can come here and say I can even add a function. Say a function, say my name. Then I do console.log. My name is Ife. So if I come here, move hobbies and say my name. Again, because it is a function, we have to call it. And I do node index. You can see my name is Ife. Simple and straightforward. And okay, my name is Ifes. And okay, I wanted to explain again. Now you have seen how we can bring in different ones inside these objects. Now let's talk about how to bring them inside arrays. So let's say we have a school and we have different students in our school, not just one student. We can say all students. So we have an array like this, and we can now save objects inside. We have name, Ife, age, 60. We have another student, name, Kelvin, age, 55. Let's add a girl to our school, name, Chinaza, and then age, 30. So if I come here and do console.log all students, let me make this camel case, all students, and I run it in my terminal, I can see the different objects that we have inside this array. Now to get the first element, all I have to do again from what we have learned to target Ife and age60, all I have to do is call the index of that particular object. Because if the first one is index of 0, so if I do node index, I get name, Ife, and age60. Now because we want to go inside that array to get name, I can now do dot name. If I do node index, I see Ife. Now I know that this is quite a lot, but if you can watch this video a couple of times, 2, 3, 4 times, you should get the scope of what we are doing here, and how very soon you will see how important it is when we start working on Node.js proper. In the next video, I'll be talking about loops and conditionals and how we can take some of what we have learned from data types and bring them into our knowledge of loops. So we are going to be looping through arrays, displaying the value of arrays. Right now, all we are doing is displaying 1, 2, 3, 4 data in our terminal. So when we start talking about loops, you will see how we can display all of the value we have in our array. So see you in the next video.